It's Metal Clock with Miss Nesha Joyo. Welcome to another video.
So, greetings everyone. So today we are going to be starting our lesson on Euclidean geometry. So now, in order for us to understand Euclidean geometry, it is important that we firstly get the mathematical background in terms of where it's descended. So now, firstly, we are going to be examining the circles, the angles, and the relationship between the angles within a circle, right? So these are some of the things that we are going to be covering today. So to begin with, so firstly, it is important that we firstly understand what is a cycle. So our cycle consists of, so basically a cycle, it is a set of all points that are drawn at equidistance to each other from a midpoint. Right? So this is basically going to be our cycle. So it is basically a set of points that is drawn at equidistance from each other from your center. So this makes your circle, right? So now there are different or various terminologies that are within those within a circle. Now we are going to start firstly by understanding the first word, which is our chord, in terms of what is a chord. So basically, a chord is a line that touches your cycle circumference twice. Okay, but it doesn't cut from your center. So your chord is basically this particular line that touches your circumference of your cycle. Okay, that makes your chord. A line that touches your circumference of your cycle twice. But it doesn't cut from the center. Right? It can either cut from this side, or this other side. As long as it doesn't cut from the center, therefore we call that particular line a chord. Okay. So now we have then some things that we then call a radius. So basically, the definition of your radius is going to be a line drawn from the center of your cycle to the circumference of your cycle. So that is your radius. So a radius is basically this particular line that is drawn from your center of your cycle to the circumference of your cycle. Okay. Then this line is categorized as your radius. Okay. While we call this particular line your chord. So this is going to be your chord. Now, if therefore you are having two or more lines that are drawn from the center to the circumference of your cycle. Now, if there are two or more, now we call those lines your radii. Now, if there are two, this one and also this one, we call these ones now, the two of them, that we call them what? Your radii or the radii. Okay. So these are basically going to be the two lines. Now, however, we also have this particular line or this set of line. Now, if you are having your radius, or if you are having two radius that are at collinear, so which means that are in a straight line. So now let's say I come again, I draw now my two radii, or the radii which are in collinear, right? Collinear, which means now straight line that's cut from the center and they form a straight line. Now we call this one now a diameter. So what is our diameter? A diameter, it is a line that separates our cycle into two equal halves. The diameter, it is a particular line that separates your cycle into two equal halves. Then that's what we call it a diameter. But take note that a diameter is made out of two radius, right? Or it is two radii that are at collinear. Collinear, which means straight line. Okay, so those are going to be those particular lines. Now, we have what we call a tangent line, right? So, a tangent line, your tangent line is basically now going to be the line that touches the circumference of your cycle once. Your tangent, it is the line that touches the circumference of your cycle once. So, if this line, it touches your cycle just once, then we call this now your tangent. Now this is therefore going to be your tangent, right? And your tangent can be anywhere within your cycle, right? It can be found here, it can be found here, or any part or in any circumference of your cycle. But as long as it touches once, therefore we call that your what? Your tangent. Now we have what we call your secant line. So now your secant line is basically your extended chord, right? Your secant line is your extended chord, right? Remember we said this is a chord. A chord is basically that particular line that touches what? That touches the circumference of your cycle twice, but not from your what? Not from your center. Now your secant line therefore is going to be this particular chord, right? If I can draw it here. Can you see that from here it's a chord, right? But as it passes, right? Now we call this your secant. This is your secant line. Okay. So this is your secant line. So these are some of the things that are very much important in order for us to understand some of the ideas within your Euclidean geometry. Okay. So just to recap on some of the things which we have already discussed, we are saying firstly, we have our cycle. We are saying our cycle is basically the set of points that are drawn at equidistance, right, from the midpoint. Okay, so therefore it's going to be your cycle. And then we are saying now your chord is basically going to be what? It's going to be that particular line within your cycle that touches your circumference of your cycle twice, but not from your midpoint, right? While we are also saying now the radius, your radius is a line drawn from the center of your cycle to your what? To your circumference, right? And we are saying when there are two or more, we call them now what? The radius, right? Now we are saying now we also have what we call a diameter. So basically your diameter, it is your radius that are at collinear, which are forming a straight line. Or are those particular, or it's that particular line that separates your cycle into two equal halves. Then that makes your diameter. Okay, so now this is important in order for us to proceed to understand what are the theorems, right?